Who's got
We're back on the Morning Brew with Friends with Angela Musworthy. You're the Vice President of Mortgage Production for Nusenda Credit Union, and it is Financial Literacy Month. So we've had several folks from Nusenda on kind of explaining the modern sense of financial literacy, because it's changed, right?
It really has. I mean, we're in an environment now more so than ever where the banking industry is highly regulated.
Right.
So as a result, it makes it, there are more steps for lenders to go through in order to have people eligible for housing.
Right. There were a few people who screwed that up for all of us about a decade ago, right?
Well, and the good ones are left in the market,
right.
I promise.
Right.
But in fact, I just recently got back from DC for national advocacy with regards to our state to make sure that any type of further legislation wouldn't have unintended consequences to our citizens for home ownership.
Good, because I've heard that there are some new rules that make people fill out like dozens and dozens and dozens more forms than you even had to fill out before if you just wanted a mortgage, right? And there's disclosure rules and time rules and waiting periods and all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, in fact, in October, we just entered into a whole new disclosure environment, and it's called TRID. Truth in Lending, and RESPA now is combined to stand for Truth and TRID. Okay, so now I'm forgetting what
It's a giant acronym that's too crazy for Monday morning at 7:15. It's all right. But basically what that does is it makes you guys, it puts more of a burden on banks, it puts more of a burden on credit unions, everybody who's trying to get money out in the world for people to buy homes, right? It makes it a lot more difficult.
It increases disclosure timing, and there are other overlays now that a lender has to consider. So we went into an environment where every lender now has to prove the ability to repay. And every lender has to make sure that they're originating a qualified mortgage in order to have the appropriate set of rules protect the borrower.
So what does that mean for people like me who might be out there looking for a home?
That means, well, I can tell you one trend that's been pretty significant, and that's for the younger folks that are getting into the market looking for a home. So you've got your millennials, which are, we're looking at about 58% of them being first-time home buyers now within the next 5 years.
You don't expect people in their 20s to have bought homes already.
No, but these folks are graduating with a lot of student loan debt.
Right.
In fact, the average millennial has somewhere in the neighborhood of about $35,000 in student loan debt.
Easily,
Well, what the impact of that is that it comes against their ability to be able to own a home because of ability to repay. The student loan debt must be counted in that equation, and it makes it a little more difficult for then that individual to qualify for the housing. So not only are the regulations enforcing that piece of what we have to consider against a debt to income ratio, but they're also they're increasing the timing of disclosures, they're increasing the hoops people have to jump through.
So how do you make it easier for a millennial or somebody who's trying to buy their first time home when they have all this debt from student loans, from everything else in life?
Well, luckily it's Financial Awareness and Literacy Month. Nusenda takes a very preemptive approach to training our members. So we do first-time homebuyers seminars every month. You can check it out at nusenda.org. In fact, we have one coming up this Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 o'clock. You don't have to be a member. You can come in and be a part of it. But what we like to do is show the individual all the things that they're going to need to be prepared for in order for successful home ownership. So we discuss their credit and what that looks like and how to maintain the student loan debt or get it consolidated to make it the housing proposition more affordable. We talk about, we bring realtors in. So we talk about, what's going to be important with regards to having a realtor represent you in the negotiation process for the contract and the collateral. We talk about the capacity, what it's going to take to actually afford the home and how to prepare. Do you need to save?
What do you need for a down payment? That kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. And the credit union actually has a lot of, we have a lot of products, and we do it in order to meet each person's individual goals. So, it's not one-fixes-all type of scenario. Everybody's situation is unique, and at the credit union, when we actually are having these first-time homebuyer seminars, we definitely like to make sure that each individual is aware of all of their options, from credit repair to budgeting to ultimately surrounding yourself with the right people to make your home ownership successful.
So I know there was a lot of problems for a while with just access to capital, and there just wasn't a lot of money around. Has that changed? Is there more money now available for home lending?
So that is part of, interesting that you bring that up, that is part of what the advocacy conference I recently got back from was all about. But there's plenty of money, it's being able to qualify for it.
Oh, okay.
And it's also making sure that we don't legislate ourselves into the inability to have our citizens be able to afford homes. So, you know, New Mexico has been a lagging economy typically with regards to the rest of the United States. And so
we have not rebounded, and it doesn't help the home buying market at all, does it?
Well, you know, it's tough because we still have, whereas the rest of the sand states that surround us have improved, we still have homeowners that are underwater. We still have we still have the opportunity to bring more jobs into New Mexico because jobs equal housing.
Right.
And so those are going to be the things that we need to work on into the future in order to make New Mexico a thriving housing economy, again, with regards to that.
Right. So what's one thing somebody can do if they're planning on buying a home right now? What's the first thing they should do to get prepared?
To get prepared, it's all about the education. So again, back to...
Learn about the homes, learn about the prices, learn about the mortgage products.
It's more about learning about whether or not you should be a homeowner.
Ah.
I can tell you, you know, one of the things we talk about in the homebuyers seminars, it's about the rent versus own proposition. So currently...
It's not just about learning how to fix the sink.
No. Well, that's important too. That's part of that's part of needing to understand like what kind of money it's going to take to be a successful homeowner. But currently, believe it or not, renting is more expensive than owning. So if you take the national cost, you know, just the average cost of what it would to rent versus historically low interest rates, talking about you know, a housing economy that's just now starting to be on the mend. Like, I'll give you an example. A healthy, balanced housing market is about 6 months worth of inventory. Albuquerque just went under that.
Okay.
So you kind of have this trend now where it's not going to necessarily be a buyer's market forever. It could turn itself back into a seller's market, driving the cost of home ownership up a little bit. Interest rates are still at historic lows. So you've got, if you take that into account over the median cost of housing, you're in a situation where for Albuquerque it's about 25% cheaper to own a medium-priced house.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Indeed.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. Our friends from the Great Grant Giveaway are going to tell us about the 2016 edition of that in just a couple of seconds.
Thank you, Ken.